Making a clay pot is a good metaphor to explain how a successful religious movement is created. In the beginning, the process of creation can be quite violent. The clay is usually cut several times, either with a knife or with a wire. Then it must be slapped down hard upon the wheel to give the pot a solid footing. When we think of what this means for the founder of a religious movement, we can see that it takes a special kind of individual to allow himself to be treated that way for the sake of what, in its early stages at least, is mostly just an ideal. The pot is, after all, at this point, only a lump of clay. There may be a loose organization in the beginning, a group of committed followers, a meeting schedule, or even a curriculum of sorts. However, once the trouble begins, as it always does, this nearly always falls apart. On the night that Jesus was taken into custody, his disciples all deserted him. Likewise, when Nichiren incurred the wrath of powerful forces in the military government of his day, only the bravest of his new converts dared stand at his side. How easy it would have been for either man to recant his teachings at this point, letting his disciples off easy and sparing himself injury or even death. For that very reason, there always comes a moment of truth in the creation of any new religious tradition, a moment when its founder chooses, not for the sake of what already is, but for the sake of what might be, to hold firm in the face of persecution, enduring what he might easily avoid were he merely to shut his mouth. Tsunesaburo Makiguchi was repeatedly offered his freedom when he was imprisoned for thought crimes against the Japanese imperial government during World War II. Each time, he said no. Makiguchi had undergone a deep religious conversion and experienced the Lotus Sutra called reaching the stage of non-regression, the point in one's spiritual development where it becomes impossible to turn back and return to the world one knew before. In Buddhism, that old world is sometimes defined as the world of upside-down views. According to the logic of that old, deluded world, freedom means being at liberty to come and go as we please. Such a definition of freedom is often very useful to an oppressive regime. That is because freedom, if so defined, becomes something that can be then taken away. Tsunesaburo Makiguchi said no when offered his freedom because the offer itself was deluded. His captors, who thought they were free, but in reality were the thought prisoners of an oppressive government and the victims of a degraded religious culture that had long since capitulated on the matter of basic human rights, therefore had nothing to offer him. He was free already. Like Nichiren before him, his willingness to die for the sake of the Lotus Sutra offered a freedom that could not be taken away by any worldly power or authority. Like Jesus before him, and Nelson Mandela later, Tsunesaburo Makiguchi found in prison something that, given the state of Japanese society during the war, could not be gained outside its walls: true freedom, and with it, the power to change the world. The first founder of any religious movement must find that freedom and that power, and this means that he must be willing to confront the forces of delusion in society, even those forces supported by religious tradition. That means seeing the world right side up and declaring that truth to anyone who will listen. The second founder receives that right side up view from his mentor and builds an organization on its principles, declaring and spreading that same freedom and power to a society that, although it may still resist being told the truth, has already begun to accept it on some level. People who are willing to undergo persecution for their beliefs seem more awake and therefore more convincing than their counterparts in whatever complacent religious culture is then in power. The work of the second founder is still arduous and still not without risk. Likewise, it requires great energy. Josei Toda's energy in spreading Nichiren Buddhism is almost legendary. When we consider his character, the fierceness of his resolve to transform post-war Japanese society through faith,